The first time that I see what it looks like through this camera on this drone. Nice and slow. Yeah, that's not slow. This thing is super fast. Hey, welcome to my channel. Well, in this video, we're going to take a look at this here Vortex 180 Race Quad. Yes, it's an FPV Race Quad. Now, if you've been watching my channel or you are a subscriber, you will see that on the Captain Drone channel, I take a look at all types of drones, all the way up from like the $4,000 drones all the way down to the $20 drones. And I also do FPV racing because I love FPV Race Quads and acrobatics. So this one here has been out for about a year and maybe even longer near, I'm not really sure, but I had no intention of buying it because I already have the Vortex 150 little one right here from the same guys. It's a little smaller than the 180, but this one was on half price, so I picked it up. So now I have the entire family here. You know, in the FPV world, we don't call them drones, we call them quads, but in the camera drone world, we call them drones. Interesting. At least that's what we do here in Canada. I already have the little Vortex 150 here. This one's a little bit bigger at a 180. And then after that, it goes up where here. This is like a 230. It gets bigger. And then they go up to like a 250. That's a, oh my God. And there's another 250 here. So they're all different in their own way. And by different, I mean they have like a different camera, different motors, different size. They're all made out of carbon fiber, but that's basically it for an FPV Race Quad. And you customize them however you want. I've got GoPros on pretty much all of them. The reason I buy these ones is because I used to build my own, but then I'm always tinkering and there would always be problems that I have to source the parts. Whereas these, almost every hobby store has all the parts, so if you break something, you just go to a hobby store and fix it yourself. It's pretty simple. Now, if you want to get into the world of FPV racing, this might be an interesting video to watch because I'll try to show you most things, but I will set this up and show you that. But I will tell you right off the bat, it's an expensive hobby to get into, but as soon as you're into it, then it's not so expensive. The reason I say it's expensive is not because the drones are expensive, although they are kind of expensive. Some of these can cost you upwards of like 500 bucks, especially if you start adding GoPros to them and everything else. Well, then it gets quite expensive. But the expensive part to start is, well, these here goggles. If you go with like Fat Shark goggles, these are the top of the line more or less, and they'll set you back a lot of money. You can get cheap Fat Sharks, but after a while you want better Fat Sharks because it's all about what you see and hear. So, and these you'll have with you no matter how many drones you get, so you might as well get something of quality. And then the next thing is you have to choose a transmitter. Got to pick a brand name and choose what you want. This is a 6-channel transmitter, and I chose the brand name Spectrum, and because I chose it at the start, I've stuck with Spectrum since. So once you have these two components, well then everything after that is pretty much less expensive. Anyways, enough chatting. Let me just open this here Vortex 180 box. We'll see what's inside and then I'll set it up and you'll see why the hobby is maybe a little bit expensive to get started and maybe a little bit confusing, but after that it's all pretty easy. Plastic off. All right, let's take a look at what comes in the box. There won't be too much. You get some props. You get some prop nuts right here. Next, inside the kit, you get a little video transmission antenna. This is a Fat Shark one, so it's pretty decent. You even get some elastic bands, and you wonder, what do I want these elastic bands for? Well, you put them on your batteries to say either charged or not charged. Over on this side, you have some connectors. You'll need this for your receiver. And that's pretty much it. Next thing you get is the little, oh, there are some stickers on the bottom. Here's the 180, and yeah, immersion RC. It's a Vortex 180. It's all carbon fiber, so it's quite strong. Motors are pretty decent, very powerful. Brushless motors. That's the great thing about this. And the camera, I believe it's a Fat Shark camera on the front. There's a little lens cover over it. I'll take that off. Antenna goes in the back. I'll have to take this all apart so I can put my receiver inside, you know, customize it that way, and then it will be all set for a flight. So, let's go. Now, before we go any further, let me give you a quick word on LiPo batteries for FPV quads. So this is an ammo case, and this is what I take to the field with me. It's huge, and inside I have some LiPo bags, and in the LiPo bags I have batteries for quads. Now, batteries come in all sizes. If you know nothing about quads, well then this battery means nothing to you. So I'll try to explain it as fast as I possibly can. On a quad like the Vortex 180, it takes a 3-cell battery or a 4-cell battery, and it really likes a high C rating. Now, that probably made no sense to you, so let me try to explain it quick. So each of these, as you can see in here, that's a cell, that's a cell, that's a cell, that's a cell. So this is a 4-cell battery, and if I showed you a 3-cell battery, well, it would only have 3 of those, and if I showed you a 2-cell battery, it would only have 2 of those, and so forth and so on. Now inside this battery, this is a battery for a Mavic 2 Pro. This is a 4-cell battery. So inside this here piece of plastic, well, is a battery somewhat like this. They're very similar. You know, this thing just fits in here, and that's a 4-cell battery for a Mavic 2 Pro. And this is for the Parrot and Navi, and this is only a 2-cell battery. So inside this here battery, there's only 2 of these cells instead of 4. There's just 2. Let me just say each of these cells is 3.7 volts. So I have 3.7 volts plus 3.7 volts plus 3.7 volts plus 3.7 volts. That's a 4-cell, and they're all shooting out all those 3.7 volts times 4, shooting out this little cable here, all that power. So that's a lot of voltage. So the more voltage you have, the more power you have for lift. You can really, like, when you set full power, you can really send all that power to motors and lift things. So if a drone is heavy, usually you have a bigger battery, but the battery's heavier too. So the Mavic 2 Pro is a bigger drone, and it has a big 4-cell battery for a lot of power to go fast and to lift. And the Anafi is a very light drone, so it only needs a 2-cell battery. So it's got 3.7 volts times 2, gives a little 2-cell battery, and it doesn't require as much power to get off the ground. So now you know about the cells. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and yes, there are batteries that go 5, 6, 7, 8. You can have 8-cell batteries, probably even higher than that on some of the big batteries. But for most race quads, most people use a 3-cell, a 4-cell, sometimes a 6-cell. But next thing you have here is the milliamps. So this is 1300 milliamps. Think of it this way. That's your battery, and you've got a ton of voltage, which we've already gone through. But how long is that power going to continue to stream? You know, I'm trying to make it pretty simplistic here. So if I have a battery and it's this size, 4-cell, and it's got a 1300 on it, and I have another battery the same size and it's only got something like maybe 800 on it, well, the 1300 will actually have more power in the battery. You know, the voltage remains the same, but there's more power stored in the battery to keep sending out for a longer period of time the higher this number is. So a 1300 is higher than an 800. So these 4-cell batteries will come in sizes from like 450, 500, 800, 1300, 2000, 2600. They just keep on going. So the larger this number is, the more power that's stored inside. And finally, the last thing on a battery, on a quad, everybody likes this number here. Can you see it? It's up there. Now, drones like Autel, DJI, the Anafi, Parrot, and Unique, they don't really care about this number because their motors on their drones are not super powerful. On a quad, a race quad, they're very powerful, so you can put a lot of amps through the ESCs. So this number here, the higher the number, the C rating, that's basically, think of it like a fire hose. So if I've just got a little garden hose in my backyard and I'm trying to get all the power out of here, well, I can only get as much power out as that little garden hose in my backyard is going to allow. But say the fire department comes over and they hook up that big fire hose, well, that's basically what that C rating is. It's basically, you can send out a heck of a lot more and basically deplete the battery in no time with the larger hose. So that C rating, the higher this number, that's what you want, because on a quad, you want as much power streaming out of that straight to the motors as it can possibly handle. And race quads are designed to do that. And when I have a battery like this on a race quad, I will be guaranteed about 3 minutes of flight time. I can stretch it to maybe 5 minutes, but 3 minutes is pretty much the average because I'm really going to suck a lot of power out as fast as possible. If I put this battery on a DJI drone and I could connect it, I'd probably get about 15 or 20 minutes out of this thing, but on a race quad, you're looking at 3 minutes. So right here is a typical battery LiPo charger. This is the most inexpensive one I own. This one here is like $20. I think I bought it off Banggood, and they do have a version now that's on Amazon. I'll try to link it below. It comes with an AC power supply, and these type of chargers are really simple, and they come with a nice little connector right here that you can connect to a battery. This here is called an XT60. Some drones take an XT30 and you just buy an adapter that goes from big to small. Some drones have a JST connector. Some drones have some other connector. You can get whatever the connector is and you just plug in these little banana plugs and they just go right in the side. That's why I have a little piece of red tape here so I know which one's positive. So these chargers do charging, balancing, discharge, and they also charge NiCad batteries and some other batteries, but I just use them for LiPos. They're really simplistic. Now, most people who get a race quad have no idea how to charge a battery. What do you set this at? They don't want to set the house on fire, so I'll show you really quick. This is a typical battery I would use on a drone the size of the Vortex 180. It's not a big battery. It is a 4-cell. There's 4 cells in here. You can't see it through the blue covering that's on here. This one here is not a 1300. It is a 850. and it has a C rating of 45 to 9 EC. When they show two numbers, that means it's usually always 45, and you can get it to go up to 90 to really send out a lot of power, but it can't sustain that for very long. It's going to get too hot, and you're going to get something called battery sag. So you'll get the 90 C if you blip the engines, but if you just keep it at full blast, you're not going to get the 90 C for long. You're going to drop down to 45. Coming off the battery is this little white plug. All LiPo batteries have a white plug, and this is called a balancing plug. This is how you balance all four cells so they're at the same voltage. You want them at the same voltage because they're sending all the power out at the same time. If one cell is much less than the other three, well then this battery is only as good as the weakest cell. So you need them all to be full blast. So that's your balancing plug. And then over here, that's where all the power comes, the voltage and everything comes streaming out. This thing here is where you're going to charge your battery, and this is what the unit below me is going to use to balance the battery. On the side of any charger or some cable coming off a charger, you have these little slots, and these are for your balancing plugs. And if you have a 4-cell battery, this will be a 4-cell size, and it will only fit into one of these. So let's see, I find the one it fits into. There we go. And then off your battery, you have one more plug right here, which is the power one, and that's the XT60. And I'll just connect it into the plug coming off the charger. So when you're charging a battery, make sure you have the right thing here. This is LiPo. All chargers work the same way. So it's a LiPo battery, and I want to charge it. I have it in charge mode. I don't have it in balance mode or discharge mode. Next, how many amps am I going to send to this here battery to charge it? All you have to do is take a look at the battery itself. And this one here is an 850 milliamp. So M, milliamp, it's not amps, it's milliamps. So in other words, that's going to require a decibel. So I go back on here. Let me see, maybe I can hold this up and show you. I'm going to hit start. And over here, you can go up and down, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can go all the way up to 1 amp, and you can go up to 2 amps, 3 amps, 4 amps, whatever you want. But to be safe and not burn down your house, if that's an 850, which is less than 1 amp, you put this at 0.8. There we go, 0.8. And then over here, I tell it's a 4-cell, it's flashing. So I could change that to 3-cell and a 2-cell, 1-cell. You see at 1 cell, it's as I was mentioning, 3.7 volts. And as I go up, a 2-cell would be twice that, 7.4 volts. A 3-cell would be 3 times that, 11.1 volts. And a 4-cell is 14.8 volts. So I know it's a 4-cell, this here battery. So I just hit and start. And I'm gonna hold down the button and it's gonna check it for me. And it's checking, and it confirms. It says, you're right, it is a 4-cell battery. Are you set to go? I say yes. I hit start, and it starts charging. And this here shows me how many milliamps it's sending. The time counts down, what's the voltage if I want to check, because I have a little balancing plug in here. I can check all the cells in the battery hitting one of these buttons here. There we go. So you can see my cells should be at 4.2 and they're at 3.8. So when these all get up to 4.2, it's going to tell me it's fully charged. And that is how simple it is. Enough about batteries. Let's get back to the Vortex 180. So one important thing about FPV drones is that you have to talk to them with your, your controller, your little radio, and send signals to it to make the drone fly the way you want. But it has to receive them. And inside these drones, there's nothing. See this little cable? It says, hook up a receiver, so I know who's talking to me. So you'll have to get one, and you get one based on the type of radio you have. And I have a Spectrum radio, so I'm going to attach a Spectrum receiver right here. Thanks to Amazon, I ordered one. And here's one right here. And that's what I'm going to use. It's a little Spectrum race receiver. And this here will attach to this here cable. I'm going to stick this receiver hopefully inside, and I'm going to run the antennas out the bottom. So I'm just taking off all the screws so I can get the top off this here quad and then put my receiver on the inside, and everything will be good. Best thing about having a receiver on the inside is that this whole area on top from here to here allows me to put either a camera set up here or the battery. If I stick the receiver here, then I'm taking up a lot of valuable space. So some people like it on top. I like it inside, so that's why I'm taking it all apart to put the receiver inside. There you can see the circuits inside. One good thing about immersion that I like, since I live in Canada, I fly these in the winter, and immersion coats all their circuits so that if you do get snow or water on them, they're not bad. Just don't let the water rust. But you won't fry your board for the most part. It will keep on working. Just don't fly it with water, wet water water on it or it will fry it. You have to, it's kind of water resistant. It's not waterproof. All right, so here, this little piece of metal at the back, I'm going to stick my little receiver on that. Look at the size of my receiver. So that's my receiver here. I'm going to try to squish it in the back here. Just sit back there. Hopefully it works. And I'm just running the antennas through. There's little holes down here to put the antennas in. You have a choice. You can have your antennas come out the back, or you could have them come out the front. And I'm going to put them out the front, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to do a little trick that if you've been flying drones for a long time, there's something you do to your antennas to make them much more efficient, and also so that they don't get chopped up by the props. So after I get everything in, I will do that. There we go, I've got this in place. The receiver's inside. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bind my receiver to the radio. Now it's very important, I'm gonna add power to the drone to power it up. And if you put power in an FPV quad, I keep calling it a drone, so if I call it drone quad. Anyways, if you put power to an FPV quad, you have to have a little antenna on the back for the video so you don't fry the video board, because it's shooting out a signal and it does get warm inside. That's where a lot of the power goes. So that's one thing. Next thing is your radio. So I've got my radio on and I have to bind it to this quad. But this radio is for anything. I could drive a tank, I could drive an airplane, a boat with this radio. It doesn't really know that's a quad. So basically all you do is you just add a new plane or something to it. Keep all the default settings, because this is a 6-channel radio and it takes 4 channels for all this stuff here. See, it talks to you and everything. But yeah, I know I'm finished. So basically that's 4 your channels. Then you have 2 more channels, and all these buttons and switches on here, you can assign those last 2 channels to any of the switches to do certain things. So some people like to assign a switch so that you flick a switch. Yeah, I know. So you flick switches and it selects the different flight modes like that just did, or you can have another switch to flick it so that it starts the props. So the way it works on an FPV race quad is that as soon as you add power, the little receiver in here actually goes and looks for the radio. If it can't find it, it's going to go into bind mode. So that's what I want it to do. So I'm going to put power. I'm just going to set this. There we go. It should be in bind mode now. So I take my little thing, my radio here, and I'm going to hold it far away and hit button. And everything's bound. So now the little drone is sitting here. I don't have the battery attached properly. It's just sitting on top. I got a little red light out the bottom. And this radio is connected to the drone. But the drone is confused. It knows it's a radio, but it doesn't know what everything does. So I'm going to set it up. So this drone is setting out a little video signal out of here. This is the great thing about the Vortex drones, the Emergence, and that's what it's sending me. Right now it wants me to set up the drone. I'm going to try to get everything in the picture here so you can see me set this up, all with one big screenshot. First thing it says in this little screen, it says center all the controls. So I'll move this up. Yeah, it's centered. All right, you should be centered. Now it says move, roll, control left and hold. That's your roll right here, because you roll the drone to the left or the right. So I'm going to go left and hold. And then it says move to opposite direction and hold. There we go. Move yaw control left and hold. That's your yaw, because you yaw your drone by turning it this way or that way. So it says move it to the left and hold. So go to left. There we go. Move to opposite direction and hold. You can do this again if you screw it up in some way. Move throttle down and hold. That's your throttle.
Timer stop.
And move to opposite direction and hold.
Timer start.
And then return controls to neutral. So this is the only one that has to go back to neutral. There we go. Move the pitch control down and hold. That's to pitch it forward and backwards right here. So I'm going to go down, hold. Move to opposite direction and hold. And return all controls to neutral. Next thing it says left stick, back and left. So that's your left stick. So to the back and to the left.
Timer stop.
And return to neutral. Level the quad and move right stick back and hold. So this is your right stick. Pull this back. Return to neutral. All done. Now it should play a tune to tell me everything's great. Do I have a tune? There we go. There we go. You get the Mario Kart tune, so all is good. This is now connected to this, and we're all good. Let's turn the throttle down. All right, so now you can literally fly this. And if I take the lens cap off here, let's just show you that. This lens cap, by the way, I never put it back on. There we go, lens cap's off. So that's basically what the drone sees right here as I'm looking around. Pretty cool, eh? Oh, and there's pretty much zero latency because it's an analog video signal that's sent. Finally, just to make sure the drone's working before I start playing with the props and doing other stuff, I'll just make sure the motor's run, so I'll turn it on. You just move this over here. Whoa, that's some weird sound. That's off. There you go. So to start the motors on my drone, because I have it. Yeah. That's the signal you get when your drone is lost or you crash, so you can find it. It's extremely loud, so the only way to stop that is to either start the drone again or disconnect the battery. So there you go. So if I want each prop to work, left and right, each motor is turning at a different speed. It's extremely fast. There we go. All right, so our little quad came with some props right here. These are 4-inch props and some nuts. I do need the nuts, but I don't really care for the props. They're HQ props, which are high quality, which, you know, they actually are really good props, but I like tri-blade, so I've ordered some 4-inch tri-blade props here. I got a pile of them and different colors. And I've got orange, green, and purple, I think. That's it. So I'm going to probably change this white to a blue color, and I'm going to be flying in snow, so I'll probably use the orange props at first just to make it more visible. So I like tri-blade props because the difference between dual blade and tri-blade is cornering. Dual blade will make you go very fast forward and backwards, but tri-blade will allow you to corner and make really tight turns, and that's what I need with a little drone like this, so I always prefer tri-blade props. Now, one thing you learn when you're flying drones, it doesn't matter if you have a DJI, a Unique, an Autel, any type of drone, the props all go on the same way when you have 4 motors. So DJI, it makes it simple so beginners can use it, but props always go the same way. You just learn after a while which way a prop goes, so I know how my blade has to face a certain direction. I know that goes there. And this here goes, you just look at this one, whatever you put on this prop, the same identical one has to go here. So you look at how the blades are tilted, the angle of them, and you match it up. And then that means that that could only go there and that could only go there. There you go. You got 4 props on. The way I always remember, this is probably just a goofy way, I always remember this is a head, right? So that's an eyeball. And when it's hot out, you always want to fan yourself, right? You know, you're blowing wind. So if you put the props on a certain way and the blades turn this way, you can see they're capturing air and they're blowing wind this way. So this one blows the wind this way and this one blows it that way. So if you get these 2 props on correct, then you can put the other 2 props on, because this prop and this prop are identical and this prop and this prop are identical when you put them on. That's how I always remember. Been doing that from day one and it works for me. Now, another thing about FPV drone racing is you will need tools. So I have tools. Where are my tools? So I've got tools. These are very important. You need a knife. You need some pliers. You will need a little thing like this to attach 2 nuts. They're all the same size on every FPV drone. And I've also got these type of tools here so that I can unscrew all the nuts on a quad. Believe it or not, all quads come with the same, pretty much same standard nuts within these 4 type of nut remover screwdriver things, female and male, and that would be, I guess that would be female and these would be male. And that's pretty much it. You can get away with flying race quads if you have the right tools, because you will need tools in the field, because you will crash and you will break props, and you got to change them like this. They do not have snap on and snap off props. There we go, 4 props on, and it's pretty much ready to fly now. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is remove some of this white here, because as you can see, it's very bright, and certainly in the summertime, if this was in grass, I could see it, but in the wintertime, I am not going to see it. So I'm going to replace some of these arms, maybe everything, with blue. So I have a blue transparent kit here to put on this here white drone, and yeah, probably won't replace everything, just some of the things. So through the magic of video, you're gonna see what my little drone looks like in blue. Ta-da! Here we go. So I've got blue on the front, some blue here, and I left the white on the back and some white on the sides, and that's pretty much it. So in the winter time, if it lands this way, well, then I should see the blue. And in the summertime, if it lands this way, then I will just have to put brightly colored props on or change this back to white. But I should be able to see it no matter what. I also changed this battery strap. It was a little too short. I like the long ones. So it came with the short ones, and I just put a nice long one on it. And now the next thing I have to do is, you see these antennas, they're just flopping around out here. So I am going to secure them so they're perfect for FPV flying. They can crash all at once and the antennas will stay intact. So here we go. All I have to do to fix the antennas is take a zip tie, put it right here on the arm, wrap it around, and get it nice and tight. Now with the zip tie in place, I just wrap some electrical tape around it to hold it in place. And the great thing about electrical tape is it's very, very, very stretchy, and it actually stays in place for a very long time, no matter what the weather is like. Take some scissors and cut my zip tie without cutting the antenna. Take a brightly colored shrink wrap, put it over top, put it in place, and I just put a piece of metal in place to protect the plastic, and there we go. Get this little thing ready to go, and we're going to heat it up. Should shrink wrap right to the zip tie and hold on super tight. There we go. That won't come off. And I just have to do the same thing to the other side. There we go. I have a little antenna here, a little antenna here. We're all set. This thing is pretty much ready to fly. Now, I do want to attach a camera on here, so this whole space here is going to be taken up by a battery. So in order to put a camera on here to film the flights, I have to have some sort of unit here. So there's a unit I have. It's a piece of metal that's going to fit over top of this, and I'll just put that on now and we're all set to go. And there we are. So everything is pretty much ready to go. On the front here, I can put a little GoPro or a run cam or a little tiny little Mobius. This one here I painted green so I can find it when it flies off. They come black, and it can fit on there very nice. And I can film my flight in either 1080p or 4K. Now we're gonna take it for its first flight, so here we go. All right, this looks a little chilly outside here. Let me just flip the Osmo around so you can see me. And yeah, here I am out in the cold. Does this Osmo actually track my face? You know, sometimes I get out of focus, sometimes it even has my head, but so far so good. All right, so I'm going to take the little Vortex 180 and I'm going to fly it around here behind me. You can see there's little structures and stuff, and test it out. Now the snow is really hard. You can see if I walk on it, you get that sound. Yeah, that's hard snow. So any crashes is going to be like crashing right on ice. So we'll try not to crash. Here we go. That's too cold out there for me. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fly from in the car, because when I fly FPV in the winter, I actually do that. I'll pull up to locations and just sit my car and fly. Now I will say it's not the greatest, because sometimes you lose video signal and sometimes your controller, well, with all the metal, it just doesn't go very far, and then you're out walking looking for your quad someplace. So I've got my little 180 here in the car. It's all ready to go. I've changed the antenna on the back so it sits a little higher. Just put one that sits a little higher on it, and I put a run cam on it. Cam only shoots in 1080p 60, I believe, so I'll upscale the video to 4K. Also, I'm going to show you the view I get from here on my little FPV camera on-screen display that's going to go into my Fat Shark goggles, so when I fly I see through this camera, and I'll show you what I see through the Fat Shark as well, so I'll add those together in this here thing. So that's basically it. I just have to attach a battery, stick it outside, and we're all set to go. So I got my cold hands out here. Going to be the very first flight of this here drone. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just connecting the battery. You just strap these batteries in. That's a 4-cell battery. I think it's an 850 milliamp battery. We're going to take off and get to going. Get back in my car. I'm going to roll down the window. Get a little bit more signal coming in. I'm going to fly that way. Got my Fat Sharks down here. I got my transmitter right here, and we're all set to go. It'll be the first time that I see what it looks like through this camera on this drone. They're usually all different, and it takes a while to get used to the view, the field of view. Some are wide, some are narrow. This one here I'm looking through looks a little dark, but I'll get used to it. I'll just fly slow at first. Hold my controller up. I got the window out here. Let's take it nice and easy. Motors are starting. Put in acro mode. And let's launch. Here we go. Nice and slow. Yeah, that's not slow. This thing is super fast. Let's keep it low and try not to crash into too many objects. There we go. Going around the park. I'm really getting used to this here screen. I should say the camera on this thing is different than I'm used to. It's a little darker, and it almost looks like I might have it slightly out of focus. Maybe not. It's just my eyes. But I can see. It just looks like it's more contrasty at night. I'm going as slow as I can here, guys, so if it looks like I'm just whipping around, I'm going slow. Here, let's take it up a bit. It's got a lot of power, that's for sure. A little pirate house there. Here's my car right here. Fly over me, come back. You can hear it screaming outside, go through here. So I got some good distance on it. I don't know if I can go too slow. I'm gonna try to slow it down here. Let me see, I'll try to slow it down. Ooh, get over these trees first. Gotta get used to how this thing banks. All right, slow it down a bit, slowing down. Not too slow to crash, there we go. Get it down, nice little slow speed. Stop it in air. Go this way. Let's bring it down a little bit. And let's check out, it's got a ton of power already, I can tell, so watch this. I'll just see how much power it's got. Yeah, look at that. I'm up in the friggin' stratosphere already. And you can probably flip easy. Nice and slow. Going, whoa, what's happening, Captain? We're all out of control. Yeah, this thing is super fast. There's a reason people like this drone. Go around this trail. Almost out of power. Bring it back. Alright, so we're at 30 seconds, so I guess I'll have to bring it home. So to bring this drone home, I'm going to put it in something called horizon mode, which just makes it easier for me to fly. So watch this. Now, there we go, I'm running out of power. Now I can just like cruise along the ground nice and slow and bring it over here to my car, spin it around, trying to land on my car. And there's my car. I'll bring it beside my car here. Right by the door. Where are you, buddy? There you are. Okay, so all in all, a good flight. Hopefully everything worked out well. If anybody's wondering about getting into FPV, you saw exactly how I did it there. It probably looks complicated. I would suggest to start off with a drone like the Eachine M80. That's a really good drone for beginners. You can fly it around your house and you can take it outdoors, and it comes with a controller and it comes with a drone, and then you just buy yourself some $40 goggles to practice on. But when you want to get into the pro stuff or getting up to the semi-pro, then you get yourself something like this, which is basically a Vortex drone by Immersion, and they go extremely fast, and you saw me flying it there, and I was flying in acro mode. So acro mode is something you want to learn. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to put links to all the products I used in this video below, and check it on out. All right, thanks for watching this video. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Take care.